Scientists made embryos from skin cells. What? Welcome back to School of Soul. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and if you thought artificial wombs were the peak of reproductive disruption, it's time to go deeper, into the creation of life itself. Because the next phase doesn't even require sperm or eggs. In 2023, a research team at the Weizmann Institute in Israel successfully grew synthetic mouse embryos, using only stem cells. No fertilization, no parents, no traditional conception. These embryos self-organized, developed early organs, had beating hearts, even neural activity, and they did this entirely in vitro. That one breakthrough shattered the idea that conception requires a man and a woman. In fact, it shattered the idea that conception requires people at all. Let's break down how this happened. The researchers took ordinary mouse stem cells, cells that can become any tissue in the body, and chemically reprogrammed them to imitate the three fundamental building blocks of an embryo: the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. These layers form everything from the nervous system to the skin to the gut. In other words, they built the blueprint. Once activated, these cells began assembling themselves into embryo-like structures. No sperm, no egg, just cells, chemicals, and timing. And under artificial womb conditions, they didn't just survive, they began developing the foundations of life. The team stopped the process at day 8.5, which is early in development, but the implication was loud and clear. Life could now begin in a lab with no biological parents involved. The headline said, mouse embryos, but the subtext was human. And researchers have openly said they're already exploring how to replicate this in primates and eventually humans. This is where things shift from shocking to existential. If you can create an embryo from skin cells, anyone with skin becomes a potential source of genetic material. That means you don't need a sperm donor. You don't need an egg bank. You don't need consent in the way we understand it today. You could technically grow a child from a skin sample found on a coffee cup, a hairbrush, a forgotten toothbrush. And when that embryo develops, it will not be a clone, it will be a new being with scrambled, lab-created traits. Not nature, not lineage, just code and control. The process used is called cellular reprogramming. It's the act of taking a fully developed adult cell, like a skin cell, and turning it back into a pluripotent state, which means it can become anything. Scientists can then direct these cells to become sperm-like, egg-like, or even entire embryos. It sounds godlike because it is. And it's already being done in animal models across research institutions worldwide. If you think this is fringe, you're wrong. This is published, peer-reviewed science. The only reason it's not front-page news is because the implications are too big for the system to explain. Let's talk about the why. Why grow synthetic embryos? On the surface, scientists say it's to study development, reduce animal testing, and eventually cure infertility. But behind the scenes, the motivations are far more invasive. Control over life creation means control over evolution. It means bypassing random genetic inheritance and replacing it with selective manufacturing. It means being able to generate embryos on demand, for research, for organ harvesting, for military experiments, for cloning trials. If embryos no longer require parents, then children no longer require origin. They become programmable. There's also the speed factor. Natural fertilization is slow. It's unpredictable. It relies on timing, biology, chance. But lab-grown embryos are scalable. Multiple can be generated at once, monitored with AI, and pre-screened for desired outcomes. Think of embryo labs like startup incubators, batch-producing potential lives, discarding those with flaws, keeping only the most viable. It's not a theory. That's how IVF embryo selection already works. This just takes it to the next level. And of course, there's money. This is the future of designer life. The pharmaceutical industry, biotech firms, fertility clinics, and transhumanist investors all see this as the next gold rush. Why sell supplements or surgeries when you can sell life itself? Why treat disease when you can create children without it? Why fix people when you can build better ones from scratch? But this opens a spiritual wound we haven't healed from. What happens to the soul when conception no longer requires love, union, or even biology? When life is coded, not created, what gets lost? A soul chooses its parents. It chooses its entry point, its mother's body, her frequency, her blood, her pain. These are not random details. They are the initiation of embodiment. If you remove that, what kind of soul arrives? Can it arrive at all? Some say these synthetic embryos are not alive, that they're just clusters of cells, but others argue they contain the spark. And if that's true, then we are playing with spiritual fire, creating life without consent, without preparation, without sacred ceremony, just because we can. Let's not forget the ethical quicksand this creates. Who owns the synthetic embryo? The lab? The scientist? The person whose skin was used? What happens if it grows? What happens if it develops thoughts, consciousness, identity? Do we terminate it, freeze it, patent it, sell it? You think that's extreme, but remember, corporations already hold patents on genetically modified seeds. They already control sperm banks. So what happens when synthetic embryos are just another line in the biotech portfolio? this technology will not stay in academic journals. It will end up in black markets, private labs, and classified research programs. And once a single human synthetic embryo crosses the threshold from cluster of cells to viable fetus, the world will shift. You will start hearing new phrases: artificial conception, lab lineage, non-biological offspring, post-genetic children. The vocabulary is already forming. And this is only the beginning. Because when you can grow embryos from skin, you open the door to something far darker: the production of life without soul, without choice, without purpose. And that is the moment when we stop being a species and become a system. And once that line is crossed, we don't go back. Hi, I am Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and SOS, School of Soul has a brand new series, the AI and Future Technology series. Look, you know the world is changing. And no, it's not going back to normal. Normal is over, and what's coming next is beyond anything we were prepared for. The School of Soul, AI and Future Technology series includes 319 videos on 1. The Download Society, How Data Has Replaced Destiny. 2. Predictive Future. Your next moves aren't random, they're forecasted. 3. Social Credit Systems. The behavioral economy now governs access. 4. Hive Mind. Synthetic telepathy and collective algorithmic control. 5. Nanobots inside you. Medical, military, and programmable intrusions. 6. Grief Tech. AI-fueled digital resurrection and simulated comfort. 7. Uploading your mind, consciousness transfer, and data-based identity. 8. Deep fakes plus AI clones. The replication of reality and identity theft. 9. Quantum humans. The merger of biology with quantum systems. 10. Digital afterlife, where your data goes when you die. 11. Resurrection science, reviving life through synthetic methods. 12. Immortal science, the end of death as we know it. 13. Longevity science, gene editing, anti-aging, and bio-upgrades. 14. Designer babies, engineered perfection before birth. 15. Artificial wombs, birth decoupled from the female body. 16. 3D printing, printing organs, limbs, and even humans. 17. The humanoid era, the rise of synthetic beings among us. 18. Legacy humans, the slow phase-out of unmodified analog people. 19. Smart cities, algorithmic environments that watch and decide. 20. Cloud-based societies, citizenship without borders or bodies. 21. Hackable humans, emotion, memory, and behavior under code. 22. Biometric scanning, your body is your password and your prison. 23. Sex tech, intimacy reprogrammed by machines. 24. Extinction of gender, fluidity, deletion, and design of identity. Every topic is fully explored with real-world technologies, patents, case studies, ethical analysis, and future forecasts. These aren't someday discussions. This is already happening. Join the SOS School of Soul Vault to overstand the future before it's implemented on you.